Congratulations, true crime addicts. We've survived another week. It is Friday, February 7th, 2025. This week, police are forced to reopen the Ellen Greenberg case. Why did the United Kingdom pay hundreds of dollars to incels? And an identical twin pleads guilty to taking the fall for her sister. All this and more. Stay tuned.
Yes, super excited. We are all pumped to have James Renner.
James Renner on.
That James Renner has zeroed in on.
James Renner once again drops a bombshell.
Investigative journalist, reporter James Renner, who's been on the podcast, longtime friend of mine.
And we're back with more true crime this week with me, your host, James Renner. Hey, thank you for being here, as always, on Friday mornings. This is where you go to get the true crime stories you might have missed during the week. You come here. You don't have to read the news during the week. Don't bother. It's terrible, terrible out there. I'm going to distill everything for you in the world of true crime. You can just come here on Friday mornings, hang out with Uncle James. I'll give you the goods. Before we get started, I want to tell you about this. As you may know, my next true crime book, Scout Camp, is available everywhere, February 25th. It's available for pre-order now, though. And pre-order sales is how we get on bestseller lists, so help a brother out. Also, I will be going on tour. I'm doing a bunch of signings and readings for this book. So come see me if you're in the area. On March 4th, I'll be in Des Moines at the Jordan Creek Barnes & Noble from 6 to 8 p.m. I'm coming to St. Louis on March 6th, where I'll be doing a reading and signing at the Left Bank Books at 6 p.m. Then I'm in Tulsa on March 7th, signing at Magic City Books from 6 to 8 p.m. And if you're near Wichita, come out on March 8th from 2 to 4, where I'll be signing at the New Market Square Barnes & Noble. So if you want more information about those signings, go to jamesrenner.com. But I'm very excited about this book. It's about the Boy Scout abuse scandal, but it's also about the summer I worked as a camp counselor at the largest Boy Scout reservation in Ohio, way back in '95 when I was 17 years old. So check it out. As always, I want to thank my buddy Walter for manning the camera. Walter's just back from buying up some sweet beachfront property in the Gaza Strip. Let's get to the top stories, shall we? The parents of Ellen Greenberg abruptly settled their lawsuits against the chief medical examiner of Philadelphia and a homicide detective on Monday after the medical examiner agreed to reopen and review the case, according to Penn Live. The death of 27-year-old Ellen Greenberg is a strange locked room mystery case that has become very popular online and on podcasts recently. If you do deep dives into true crime, you've probably heard of Ellen Greenberg, and I imagine the story's just going to get more popular. But here's what you should know. In 2011, Ellen was working as a first-grade teacher in Philadelphia. She was engaged to be married to a man named Sam Goldberg, with whom she shared an apartment. On January 26, 2011, Ellen was at work when a blizzard hit the region, forcing schools to close. Ellen then returned home. Around 4:30 that afternoon, Sam went to the apartment's first-floor gym to work out. About an hour later, he returned to their sixth-floor apartment, and according to Sam, he found the door locked with a latch from the inside. You know, like one of those hotel latches that you swivel so nobody breaks in. It's not something that you can use a key to unlock. Once it's locked, hard to get in. He pounded the door and shouted for her to open. Over a 22-minute period, he sent a number of text messages. And here's some of the text messages. It starts out okay. First one is hello, and then open the door. Then what are you doing? A couple minutes later, he texts, I'm getting pissed. You better have an excuse. And then finally, you have no idea. At some point, Sam got on the phone with his uncle and cousin, one of whom was an attorney. He was on the phone with them when he said he broke into their apartment and found Ellen dead, slumped on the floor against a kitchen cabinet, a 10-inch knife sticking out of her chest. His uncle instructed Sam to call 911. On the call, he tells the operator that Ellen has stabbed herself. The The pathologist who conducted the autopsy wrote that Ellen died from, quote, multiple stab wounds by an unknown person, end quote, and ruled her death a homicide on January 27th. By the time police had obtained a search warrant and returned to the apartment, everything had been cleaned and sanitized. The police disagreed that it was a homicide and said the death was only ruled as suspicious. Then the ME's office changed its conclusion in February and said Ellen had in fact died by suicide, which is an odd ruling since Ellen was stabbed 20 times, including 10 stab wounds on her back and neck and several bruises. Some of the stab wounds pierced her spine and possibly her brain. While Ellen's fiancé accepted the suicide ruling, Ellen's parents did not. They recently sued Philadelphia officials in civil court, seeking a change to the ruling and monetary damages, since they've spent an estimated $800,000 since her death to investigate the case on their own. According to court filings, Ellen's parents believe the ME was pressured by detectives when they didn't want to deal with a difficult, high-profile murder investigation and had the ME change the conclusion of the autopsy, just to kind of sweep it under the rug. In fact, the original pathologist also now believes the conclusion should not be marked suicide anymore. As part of his reasoning, he stated that there were no witnesses to Sam breaking into the apartment. Also, the latch was not damaged and was still attached to the wall, which would make Sam's version of events difficult to believe. He also stated that there's evidence that Ellen's body was moved after she was stabbed, and that her spinal column showed no hemorrhaging of blood, meaning she was likely already dead when she was stabbed there. Ellen's parents now believe she was strangled to death and only stabbed in the neck to cover up that evidence. They also believe the bruising suggests that she had been abused for some time before her death. For his part, Sam says he had nothing to do with it. Ellen's friends have admitted that Ellen had been showing signs of anxiety, mostly related to work, and had started taking anti-anxiety medication shortly before her death, but did not appear suicidal. She had also talked about moving out of her apartment, which she shared with Sam. So it's a real whodunit, one of those crazy locked room mysteries. But now it's open again and can be reinvestigated, and it's my understanding they've taken that away from the police who have initially investigated it, and they're looking for an outside agency to handle the investigation this time. On Tuesday, a gunman opened fire at an adult school in the Swedish city of Örebro, killing at least 10 people before killing himself, according to CNN. This is the worst mass shooting in the history of Sweden. According to Swedish newspaper reports, the shooter was 35-year-old Rickard Andersson, though police have not yet formally named him as the killer. Anderson apparently walked into the school around noontime and changed into military fatigues in a bathroom before opening fire on people with a rifle. The school offers classes for immigrants and people with learning disabilities. Anderson is reported as yelling, quote, "You should go away from Europe," end quote, in between firing shots. Officers responded quickly, some describing the scene as an inferno with dead people, injured people, screams, and smoke. The gunman appeared to avoid certain students while targeting others, but his motives remain unknown at this time. Mass shootings are very rare in Europe, which has more restrictions on gun control than the United States, where we see these stories play out almost on a weekly basis. In fact, there are 120 guns for every 100 people in the United States, more than twice the number of the next country on that list, which is Yemen. Sweden has an estimated 23 guns for every 100 people, which still places that country near the top of countries in Europe for gun ownership. In 2023, Sweden had the highest rate of gun violence per capita in the EU. Police are currently conducting DNA tests to verify the shooter's identity. And finally, in an effort to learn more about the danger posed by incels in the United Kingdom, the Home Office's Commission for Countering Extremism paid hundreds of self-described involuntary celibate men £20 each for completing a 40-minute survey, according to The Guardian. But many people are upset that the government would give any money to such a depraved group of losers. Incels believe they'd have, what the incels believe is that they'd have so much sex, like all the sex, if only mean women would simply lower their standards. And now they have internet chat rooms where they can meet each other and talk about all the ways everything is going wrong for them. Groups of incels have been blamed for some recent terrorist attacks, including the murder of 10 people in Toronto in 2018. Joe Whitaker, the university lecturer who organized this research and monetary reward, defended his actions, saying it was likely the best way to get the data they needed to find out just how many incels are in favor of violent acts. The data they gathered definitely gives insight into the subculture. About 1/4 of those who filled out the survey said that violence could be justified sometimes or often. Now the real mission is to figure out how to mitigate the trouble incels might cause. One idea would be to ground them from Call of Duty and force them to take hot showers for once. Those are the top stories for this week. I will be back after the break. We got to talk about this identical twin case out of Minneapolis. And lots more to come. I'll be back in 2 and 2 with more true crime this week.
Please hang up and try again.
And we're back with more true crime this week, brought to you by Pizza Spins. All the true delicious pizza flavor in a munchy, crunchy, mouth-sized snack. Here's our cold case updates. I've got a strange case out of Minnesota involving identical twin sisters. Sarah Peterson pleaded guilty on Wednesday for trying to take the fall for her twin sister, Samantha Peterson, after Samantha crashed into an Amish buggy, killing 2 children in 2023. Police became suspicious of the sisters after the accident and found text messages between the two that indicated Samantha had been the one who was driving the vehicle, but had asked her twin to cover for her because she was allegedly high on meth at the time and didn't want to face prison. Since they looked the same, it was difficult for police to immediately figure out which one was actually behind the wheel. As part of the plea deal, Sarah pled guilty, admitting the ruse, in order to get her charges reduced to aiding and abetting criminal vehicular operation. She will only receive 4 years probation, no more than 6 months in jail. Samantha, meanwhile, goes to trial soon and faces 17 felonies, which could put her behind bars for a very long time. No word yet on whether Lindsay Lohan is in talks to play both sisters in a Parent Trap sequel written by Stephen King. Seriously, though, wouldn't that make a good movie, this whole thing? I don't know, it's a little twisty. A jury in Polk County, Florida, had to determine the fate of a 17-year-old boy who police say is a cold-blooded killer, but others believe was abused and threatened by his parents. The teen boy was on trial for murdering his mother, Catherine Griffith, in 2024. The boy was living with his grandparents at the time when his mother came to the house and tried to take him away, according to the New York Post. An argument ensued, and Griffith was stabbed in the neck and died of her wounds. At first, the boy told police that his mother fell on the knife, but that didn't match up with the evidence. Witnesses said they saw the teen grab his mother by the hair and drag her inside the home. But Kathy's own mother testified that her daughter was unpredictable and had a history of violence with her son, and at one time pulled a gun on him. The boy's defense attorney argued that Kathy wanted to die by what she called suicide by son. That is, to antagonize him and then pull a knife on him, knowing he would take it and kill her. On Wednesday, the jury acquitted the teen, believing his actions were indeed in self-defense. But wait, there's more. The boy has been in this situation before. In 2023, he shot and murdered his father at his home in Oklahoma. At the time, the boy was 15, and he told police that his father had cornered him in the house, and he acted in self-defense, shooting him once in the chest and once in the head. He was charged with murder, but that charge was later dropped because authorities could not dispute the boy's claims. Whatever the truth may be, hopefully the boy gets some much-needed help and is able to make it through life now. But still, if I was his roommate, I'd probably sleep with the door locked. A man who claimed to be a movie producer was convicted this week of 2 murders and 7 sexual assaults that spanned from 2007 to 2021, according to The Hollywood Reporter. On November 13, 2021, 42-year-old David Brian Pierce attended a warehouse party in East Los Angeles where he met a model named Christy Giles and a young architect named Hilda Marcela Cabrales Arzola. The women ended up at Pierce's apartment in Beverly Hills after the party, as you do. And once they were there, Pierce gave them fentanyl and the date rape drug GHB. The next morning, masked men dropped them off at a nearby hospital. Giles was dead on arrival. Cabrales Arzola died 11 days later. During the investigation, detectives discovered that Pierce was also the man responsible for raping several women over more than a decade. His sentencing is March 13th, where he faces up to 148 years in prison. Remember that douche canoe, Derek Chauvin, the police officer who killed George Floyd when he kneeled on his back so hard the man couldn't breathe? Well, the city of Minneapolis agreed to pay a $600,000 settlement yesterday to a woman named Patricia Day, who claimed that Chauvin did the same thing to her during a traffic stop 4 months before George Floyd's murder, according to the New York Times. Day said that Chauvin hauled her out of the vehicle, threw her to the ground, and kneeled on her back even though she was handcuffed and not resisting arrest. Apparently the knee to the back thing was Chauvin's signature move, and the city did nothing to punish him for it before he met up with Floyd. Chauvin is currently serving 22 and a half years in prison. And I wonder, what's the over and under on how soon Trump will pardon this guy? But I could see that happening, right? I'm surprised it hasn't already. Let's jump over to weird news, shall we? The price of eggs is driving everybody crazy. Case in point, last Saturday somebody stole 100,000 eggs off the back of Pete and Jerry's Organics distribution trailer in Antrim Township, Pennsylvania, according to the Associated Press. The estimated street value of the golden yolks could be upwards of $40,000. Police are asking for the public's help in identifying the culprits. Rumor has it Ron Swanson was seen in the area at the time of the heist. Does anybody get that joke anymore? Do we watch enough Parks and Rec? It's like a 50-50 shot there. I don't know. Over to pop culture. I want to talk about The Kings of Tupelo. Now, this came out in December when I was on hiatus. I just started watching it, and it is crazy. If you like the Tiger King and all the wild characters you met in there, you're going to love this. Here's the write-up. The Kings of Tupelo is a crime drama documentary series that weaves together a complex narrative involving a small-town feud, internet conspiracy, Elvis impersonation, black market organ trafficking, and a presidential assassination attempt in Mississippi. The series focuses on Kevin Curtis, a former Elvis impersonator and conspiracy theorist from Tupelo. Curtis was fired from the North Mississippi Medical Center and became convinced the hospital was involved in illegal organ harvesting. Curtis developed a feud with a state representative, Steve Holland, after Holland refused to support his proposed legislation on organ trafficking. Holland also, coincidentally or not, owned several funeral homes, fueling Curtis's conspiracy theories. Curtis was later framed by James Everett Dushki, a Taekwondo instructor, Wayne Newton impersonator, and Republican candidate for office in 2007 who ran against Holland. And this guy, framed him for sending the 2013 ricin letters to President Barack Obama. Remember when that? I had forgotten that happened. But yeah, somebody tried to assassinate Obama with ricin letters. And they also went to a couple other people. So this is a crazy documentary full of weird characters, The Kings of Tupelo. It's on Netflix, streaming right now. And finally, the True Crime This Week Book of the Week, I'll work on that title, is The Secret History of the Rape Kit. Here's the write-up. In 1972, Marty Goddard volunteered at a crisis hotline counseling girls who had been molested by their fathers, their teachers, their uncles. Soon, Marty was on a mission to answer a question, why were so many sexual predators getting away with these crimes? By the end of the decade, she had launched a campaign pushing hospitals and police departments to collect evidence of sexual assault and treat survivors with dignity. She designed a new kind of forensic tool, the rape kit, and new practices around evidence collection that spread across the country. Yet even as Marty fought for women's rights, she allowed a man to take credit for her work. When journalist Pagan Kennedy went looking for this forgotten pioneer, she discovered that even Marty Goddard's closest friends had lost track of her. As Pagan followed a trail of clues to solve the mystery of Marty, she also delved into the problematic history of forensics in America. The Secret History of the Rape Kit chronicles one journalist's mission to understand a crucial innovation in forensics and the woman who championed it. As Pagan Kennedy hunts for answers, she reflects on her own experiences with sexual assault and her own desire for justice. Check it out, History of the Rape Kit by Pagan Kennedy. An important book. And that's the show for this week. I'll be back, same place, same time, next Friday morning. And it's the weekend. It's starting to get warmer here in Ohio, finally. Hopefully the trend stays. I'm ready for spring. And in the meantime, in the words of the incomparable Murray Saul, the godfather of Cleveland radio, we gotta get down, damn it. True Crime This Week is a Fearful Symmetry production. Photo and artwork are licensed through Shutterstock. If you like the cut of my jib, I have another podcast you might enjoy called The Philosophy of Crime, in which I attempt to solve the big questions behind our true crime obsession by looking to philosophy for answers. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Sit, Brownie, sit. Good dog.